Middle Cuff
Hey,
podcast on a Tuesday afternoon. We are live on YouTube. To everybody on YouTube, what is up? If you are listening to the podcast, you can check out our show on YouTube as well. Sometimes we go live there. We do the podcast there. And sometimes we go live for other reasons on YouTube. So check it all out.
check it out, people. Tell your friends. Grassroots.
By the way, also coming up on YouTube, we will release now if you're listening to the podcast, you're in the right place. You've got it all together. If you're watching the YouTube, we've got a guest on the show today, John, and that interview will be posting on YouTube separately from this podcast. It will be in the podcast, but we're excited about this.
Is it fair to say that he's the best quarterback west of Denver that does not play professional football?
The best quarterback west of Denver, Kyler?
Yeah, no professional football.
Not professional.
No NFL. Carr, Stafford.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Is he better than Jimmy?
I mean, he'd get some. He would have played at some point in time.
Herbert, Russell, lot of good pro quarterbacks west of Denver.
A lot of good pro quarterbacks, but I said several weeks ago that I thought he'd probably start for every Pac-12 school right now. Might start. I mean, I think would inarguably start for like 10 of the 12.
Who's the best Pac-12 quarterback, would you say?
Well, it's a debate. I mean, some would say Jane Daniels at Arizona State. Somebody might. I asked this question someone the other day. They said Dorian. I would say maybe Tanner McKee in terms of pro prospect at Stanford. But yeah, I would go with Jaden 1. But I think this is why I say I think Jake Haener, who is our guest on the podcast today, would start at the majority of Pac-12 schools.
One of the biggest games this week: Fresno State, San Diego State, the Rusty Screwdriver. What's it called?
No, that's Hawaii. This is the old oil can, John.
The old oil can. Well, I mean, San Diego State's ranked in the top 20. They have not lost a game, correct, this season.
Nope. One of 9 unbeatens remaining.
And the Dogs are going to go down there to, I was like, where does San Diego State play? It's like, oh, yeah, they still play at Qualcomm. That's it.
No, they're playing at Carson.
Oh, they're
don't
play
at Carson. Remember the StubHub, whatever they call that stadium?
Oh, shit. That is a ball game, guy.
Yeah, because they're getting some work done, I think, on theirs. But
I like Haener to go in there and kick their ass. So
yeah, I think he's going to play well. I think he's going to play well. He is the quarterback for the Fresno State Bulldogs. That's where I went to school. That's where John worked for Pat Hill, got his graduate degree.
Hangs up there on the wall, guy. I got a graduate degree from Fresno State.
You didn't pull it down? I can't reach it right now. I had it up during our interview, my degree from Fresno State. Proud Bulldogs here, John and I. And so we were thrilled. I mean, we wanted to talk to him after the UCLA game, but everybody did. So we let it die down, and Jake gave us some time, and we had a lot to talk with him about.
Stud.
So that's coming up. Jake Haener. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. He's from the Bay Area, and he plays at Fresno State, and is really good. He's a baller.
Same high school as Zach Ertz. The head coach, also Adam Peters, John Lynch's right-hand guy. The head coach for Monte Vista right now is C.J. Anderson, the running back that from Vallejo went to Cal, was Peyton Manning starting running back in the Super Bowl when he I think when he won the Super Bowl or maybe when he went to the Rams. I can't remember exactly how it happened, but Adam Peters, as an undrafted free agent, was a big reason that they signed him with the Denver Broncos. C.J. Anderson was the year that I was doing the West Coast, but he had a big junior season because he was a junior college transfer. And I remember as a senior, their senior year, I mean, the Cal team, I think that's the year Tedford got fired. It was just kind of a disaster. Keenan was on that team too, but his stepbrother was the Zach Maynard was the starting quarterback. It just got derailed. I think they won like 3 games, and it was a bad deal.
Monte Vista. Nate Landman, linebacker at Colorado from Monte Vista. So Jake Haener, we found out, was at the Elite 11 with Mac Jones and Tua.
Yeah.
So a lot to talk about with him. That's coming up. Get in the mailbag. Don't forget, go to iTunes, leave us a review, 5 stars. Leave us a question. Tell us your favorite bar to hang at. And that is how you get in the Haberman and Middlecoff mailbag. Also, John, we're on a text thread right now with a buddy of ours. And, well, I won't say. I was going to say, this is streaming right now in a college football office. And the text we just got was Jaden Daniels. We won't say which office. And now
I
if we
was
talk
about-
about that team, it'll be obvious.
Yeah.
That's, actually it won't be obvious because we get a lot of
Nah,
texts
who
from a lot
cares?
of
I mean,
offices.
the guy's a good player. Jaden Daniels is a good quarterback, right?
Yeah. But that said, a lot of good football this week. We'll be talking about that coming up on Thursday. Right.
What?
Some of the games we like.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Out our guy. No,
I backed us into a corner there. I'm sorry. I apologize. To our guy, we love your team. Okay.
Yeah, we do.
To our guy, we love your team.
I might go to a college football game this weekend. Oregon State.
Really?
The Beavers play the Cal Bears. Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah.
Well, Herm Edwards not going to be happy to hear that after we're texting him that we're talking about somebody else. But
what about Oregon State's quarterback? Is he any good?
Chance Nolan. He played. He's had some good games. I mean, he's been inconsistent with the pass game, but he played well the other day. He made some really. You know what? I'm glad you mentioned them because they run the shit out of the ball.
I can't wait. Smash.
They blocked 2 punts the other day, John. One of them that got called back because 2 guys are wearing the same number. I don't know who's in charge of that, but somebody was. That's one of those games. The rest of the game, just like, please win, please win, please win, and then that can just be funny.
I know.
But he hit some. Their quarterback made some big throws the other day.
I had to do a sell. I have a mutual friend who's leaving us some tickets. Not you, but because you got to work. But for me, and I was like, who am I going to take to the game? So I hit up Brian Hawkins, our buddy, St. Mary's baseball legend. And I go, hey, you want to go to Oregon State Cal? And I can tell he's like, Oregon State Cal. And I was like, then I started selling. I'm like, Oregon State's 5-2. He's like, who's their coach? I'm like, oh, it's former Chris Peterson, OC, quarterback at Oregon State, now coaching his alma mater, up-and-comer, future.
Pasadena native.
Yeah, he's coming, UCLA. Jonathan Smith. I love Jonathan Smith's demeanor. Sources say that the Haber Middlecoff podcast, we want to get him on this podcast. So if anyone is watching that knows him, tell him fucking we want to talk to him.
Let him know nobody is more pro Oregon State than us. He is a fantastic guy, like one of my all-time favorites. And I've had a chance to talk to him several occasions for a while. I saw him at a dinner a couple months ago, and he's fantastic.
And then Hawk said, "I'm in." He's like, "God, they're 5-2.
That's
really impressive." Yeah, he's coming. And then I'm like, you know what Oregon State is like? If you can go win 9-10 games at Oregon State, it'd be like throwing a Power 5 university in Woodland. Think how impressive that is to beat. Like the last couple weeks, they beat.
With all due respect to Woodland, I mean, it's been voted like the number 1 college town in America, Corvallis. Some call it Corvegas. That's what the vote was. I didn't. Yeah, I mean, don't kill the messenger.
Yeah. I don't. I might be, but
Woodland?
Relative to like
all due respect to Woodland. Home of Dustin Pedroia.
How many people live in Corvallis?
Well, I don't know, but I mean, it's a college town.
But they say the same shit about fucking Stark Vegas and Mississippi State. Like, no one's going there. And again, I'm not anti-Corvallis.
I've never been to either one of those. I would bet money that it's better than Starkville.
Have you been to Corvallis?
I've been to Corvallis many times.
What do you think?
Had a good time at Corvallis.
Yeah, so have I.
Classic small college town. I like it.
But they shouldn't be beating, like, it's very impressive when they beat Utah and USC. Right.
I get your point. I'm glad you talked Hawk into it. All right. So a lot to get to. Let's talk some other things before we do. This show is sponsored by our friends at Tito's Handmade Vodka, John. This is the good stuff. This is the number 1 vodka in America. Great recipes, so many options. You still have an empty bottle there on your table. The full ones are in the kitchen. But, they like us to give some recipes. What's better than the best? John Daly, lemonade, iced tea, vodka. Bam. Have a good time.
One I go with, and I know many people listening, if you have a girlfriend or a wife, you probably have LaCroix somewhere, either in the pantry or in the refrigerator. You can go with any flavor of LaCroix and just go Tito's and LaCroix. I mean, it's Tito's soda, but it's flavored. It's like, so if you get the strawberry one or the lime one, it's like the green LaCroix, basically is a Tito's soda in lime. It's already built in. It's awesome. You just boom, boom, and you're ready to roll. I do that all the time.
I highly recommend the ginger. There was some debate a while back about ginger ale versus ginger beer. I still don't know the difference. It's not alcoholic, but ginger beer, specifically, they got these green bottles at Trader Joe's. I think it's the best ginger drink, whatever. I like the ginger beer with some Tito's. I highly recommend that as well. But whatever you do it responsibly. Send us photos. We always appreciate you sending us photos of you hanging out with your Tito's. And enjoy. I mean,
and we're running a business, people, and so are they. So go to your local Bevmo, Safeway, Albertsons. If you're in Florida, where Jameis stole the crab legs, Publix, wherever you are. What was the
HEB.
what was the go-to one in Fresno? Save Mart? Was Save Mart
Yeah, or
like
Lucky. Yeah, Save Mart.
wherever you are, go to the alcohol section and just buy a bottle of Tito's. The one thing that stands out is the quality is elite. I mean, it's the number one vodka in America, but the price point, it's not. It is fantastic. You can't beat it. And you'll never stop going back. I promise.
Yeah, for award-winning level vodka. I mean, double gold award-winning vodka. Distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly. Podcast also brought to you by MyBookie.ag, promo code HAM1, where they'll match that they'll double that first deposit up to $1,000 when you use the code HAM1. You can also decline the bonus because if you accept it, remember you will have to bet the full amount before you can withdraw funds. But either way, HAM1, let them know we sent you. We will make our official lock of the week pick on Thursday's podcast. We'll say we're hot right now. We've won 5 in a row. Past success is not an indication of future success or whatever it's called. But let's just for a moment, John, discuss what we might be considering here.
One thing before football, I just pulled up the World Series odds on the series. Pretty evenly matched. I mean, the Braves are just slight underdog plus 120, Astros minus 150. Who do you like this series? Dusty Baker to finally get over the hump at 73 years old with the gloves on?
Yeah, how about you can get
I love this.
Ozzy Albies plus 2,200 to be the World Series MVP. Do a little World Series MVP. Carlos Correa plus 1,200.
What about even like Altuve plus 10, basically 10 to 1? I mean, he could easily hit like 3 or 4 home runs this series. What about Jock? Couldn't he hit like 5 home runs in this series? Like, I don't think Houston can really pitch. They give up a lot of bombs. I kind of like that.
Sure.
Will Smith, Austin Riley.
Anyway,
Freddie Freeman.
Lock of the week coming. Lock of the week coming on the next pod. A few things we're considering. I mean, Packers plus 6 we considered, although it's Thursday night. We don't normally do that. And now they're going to be without Devontae and Alan Lazard. So that's probably out. There's some big lines, but there's actually better games this weekend than last week.
Yeah, I mean, to me, there's one game that really stands out to me, and we'll get into Mike Tomlin a little bit later, but the Steelers are coming off a bye. They're playing the Brownies, which I don't know the status of Baker Mayfield, but really, as you noticed on Thursday Night Football last week against Denver, what the fuck's the difference between Baker Mayfield and Case Keenum? There isn't one. Their running backs are banged up. The Steelers, I like this plus 3.5. The Steelers getting points at the Browns. I like that a lot.
I do too. How about Seahawks minus 3 at home against the Jags?
I would fundamentally refuse to have to put any money on Geno Smith. Here's another one. Now, I don't want to be emotionally mad at this team, but the Niners minus 3.5 are plus 105. The Bears average 14 points a game.
I know. I actually think that's on the table for lock of the week.
You could convince me to pull the trigger right now.
I probably wouldn't try to convince you to pull the trigger on that right now, but I do think the 49ers are. What I'm thinking in my head is, do I want to say the word much better, or do I just want to stick with better? I mean, they're definitely better than the
Probably
Bears.
Not much better than anybody at this point.
Yeah, is there something between better and much better? Like that's a little more than a little better?
Yeah, they're
not a little better. I think they're more than a little better.
They're not 3.5. They're probably 5 or 6 points better on paper.
Khalil Mack, McGlinchey, I mean, there's a few matchups.
At least Robert Dwelly can help him out. If you want to parlay the Steelers,
I believe his name is Ross.
Ross, yeah, he was getting shoved around last game. Steelers and the San Francisco 49ers parlay pays basically 3 to 1. What do you think about $500, 3 to 1? What does that bad boy pay? Pay $1,500.
49ers. Let me get this little bet slip here. How do I get rid of them? Anyway, okay. Get rid of that. It would take me a second to build this, but interesting.
You clicked off the Steelers.
I know you want to do it. For those of you who are listening to this, I'm clicking around on my.
Yeah,
my
who cares?
There we go.
It's basically plus 291.
Yeah. There you go.
As
you already did the math, so
that's pretty intriguing. I'm just saying.
It is a little tasty.
I'm just saying.
It is a little tasty. All right. Should we dive in? Shall we, John?
Let's do it.
there was a lot of debate, obviously, about the decisions of Kyle Shanahan as it relates to what he's going to do with his quarterbacks. And some of the things I agree with, some of them I don't. I think you would fall in that category too. But I think the emotion right now, as we wait to see what Trey Lance's availability is going to be this week, but it's clear, as Kyle Shanahan said, that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the starting quarterback against the Bears. I think the emotion that people feel is this fear that with this team on the brink of its season being pointless in terms of wins and losses, pointless isn't the word, but over in terms of a playoff chase, people are afraid that Kyle Shanahan's going to let the ship sink with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. Is that what you're feeling from people?
Well, I saw someone on social media say, like a media member, that of course Kyle is going to go out of his way to be, claim Jimmy as the starter before the trade deadline. And my pushback is, guys, this is not fantasy football. There's a salary cap involved, and no one has $15 million of salary cap space. Or I guess Jimmy's half his salary's gone, so he's 25, it's 12 and a half. Like, people don't have that amount of money. It's why these players with these massive salaries do not get traded during the season. Part of the reason Stephon Gilmore went to the Panthers for only a 6th-round pick is there was a short list of teams that can take on that type of money. He is not a tradable player. He's not. So when Kyle's saying these things, I believe he believes them. And as a coach, you got to be careful what to say to your team. But I am a little concerned. I don't necessarily think that he believes Jimmy Garoppolo is some great player, but I do believe that he thinks he's vastly better and more important in terms of winning a game than Trey Lance right now, and that's kind of scary.
I don't know if he even thinks vastly. He might. I mean, we saw what he did when they were both healthy. He went with Jimmy and didn't really hesitate much. We'll see when Trey Lance is healthy what decisions he makes. Now, I think they're going to beat the Bears, and if they do that with Jimmy Garoppolo, then it makes it more likely that Jimmy Garoppolo is the starting quarterback the following week if Trey Lance is healthy. And we'll see this week if Trey Lance is healthy, if he works into the game at all. I think that he will. If he's healthy enough to play, I think we'll see them almost force him into the game in terms of getting in some packages. But I've heard this. So actually, before I jump ahead, let's address what you talked about, which is trade value. Trade value is not a consideration at this point. Like, you're not playing Jimmy Garoppolo for trade value. That has nothing. If they are, it's asinine. No one's trading for him. No one's giving you anything for him. And
I think a lot of 49ers feel that everything going on with the Niners right now is a little asinine. It's a little outrageous. It's just a little whack.
Well, okay, but let's just talk about this. The idea
I mean revolving around the quarterback situation.
Yeah, but I'm saying this is on another level. The idea that trade value has anything to do with any of this. Like, it is over. It's a sunk cost. Anything you get in some theoretical trade at this point, you should consider a surprise chocolate in your sandwich bag. Like, if you're thinking about trade value right now, you're doing it wrong. Like, it is done. There's no trade. There's no trade. And if there is a trade, it's not for anything you want. No, it's not a trade that'll get anybody's attention. The Bleacher Report update you get will be Niners trade quarterback for pick. Click to see what round. You know the way they do it. It'll be like the Niners sign running back who once appeared in the SEC. You're like, what? Who are they talking? Did they just trade for Derrick Henry? Like, that's what they want you to think. Yeah. That's the kind of alert you're going to get. It's nothing of value. The trade conversation is dead, John. But you're right. People are talking about it like it's a factor here. The other word I've heard is like loyalty. Jimmy, this is not about loyalty. Kyle has tried to get rid of Garoppolo he's tried to replace him with Deshaun. He tried to replace him with Stafford. He ended his relationship with LaFleur. Half kidding. Because he wanted Rodgers. He just drafted a quarterback. This is not about loyalty to Garoppolo. It is not about loyalty.
I think the scary thing is, and listen, we don't know. We're recording this on Tuesday. We'll know Wednesday if he practices, and we'll know by the end of the week how, if he's limited on Wednesday, does he progress more? Is he limited all week? The moment he's fully healthy, every single human being, me, you, the dude sitting on their couch, every person that's last name is not Garoppolo and associated with the Garoppolo family does not want to see Jimmy Garoppolo ever play quarterback again. as long as Trey is physically able to play. And to me, that is kind of the elephant in the room right now. And what's scary is that, let's say Trey is not quite healthy this week, so they just say, hey, maybe he'll travel, but Sudfeld will be up, he'll be down. They go and they beat the Bears by 10 plus points, and Jimmy's good. Let's say he throws a couple touchdowns, and they just kind of look like they did the first couple weeks. Jimmy Garoppolo will start the next week. I have zero confidence that Kyle would bench him, and he mentioned this yesterday. And again, he could be lying. Coaches, what they say sometimes, it's hard to, put too much stock into is it the truth, is it not? Whoever knows. But he said Jimmy doesn't play for his job every week. I mean, it's kind of what he alluded to when he was talking to the press yesterday on a phone call. So Jimmy would start the following week, right? If he beats the Bears. I think that, and then let's say Trey's healthy by next week. That's what people just... I think Kyle made an enormous miscalculation because he was obsessed with the short term. And I think any human being in any big business that's obsessed with the short term is where you can make the gravity of your mistakes feel enormous. And to be 2-4 with Trey only having one game in feels like you went all in with Jimmy because you were just obsessed with trying to make the playoffs, and now you're not even close to making the playoffs. Thank God for Seattle, you'd be in the cellar of the NFC West. And it doesn't feel like he's willing to pivot off that anytime soon. Obviously, if they keep losing, he eventually won't have a choice, but they can Band-Aid a win here and there with Jimmy Garoppolo. So it's is Trey even going to end up getting that many games this year? They could go 6-10, and the way it plays out, I could see Trey only getting a couple starts at the end, which is scary.
Right. You're saying that 6-10, but it's there.
But at one point in time, it's 4-5. Yeah, and then it's 6-7. It's can they win 3 straight? No, and then Trey gets the last couple games. That's what's scary. And I think Kyle, we have to judge him by his actions, will try to win every fucking game humanly possible. And listen, I don't ever push back. I understand no coaches, and as someone that pounded the table to tank a couple years ago, because by that, in December, remember when they won that meaningless game and we were arguing, not necessarily me and you, but just people, the argument was out there.
Yeah. The
problem is, big picture, you do not have a first-round pick. The only hope your franchise has is this quarterback. And, the consumer's already turning on you. And I don't like that. I don't want, it's not that fun. I mean, thank God, it's a topic to talk about, but I'd rather have this, something to build upon, and that doesn't feel like they're anywhere near doing that, which is kind of crazy given what they gave up for the kid.
Yeah. I think I'm not convinced that he's just going to stick with Jimmy even if Trey's healthy. Now, you're right. If they beat the Bears this week, as I still think they should, they're the better football team. They're favored on the road. They should win this game. Then Jimmy Garoppolo is going to play the next week. But you know who the next opponent is?
No, who?
It's the Arizona Cardinals, who Trey Lance has already started against. Now, is that good for Trey Lance or bad for Trey Lance? Is Trey Lance's life harder if he plays against the team he's played against before because they've played against him? Or is it easier because he's played against them?
You would have to say it would be easier.
I would argue the same. And I think 6 years ago, 6 years ago, I think you could say it's going to be harder because a running quarterback and some of these RPO things that you're going to do, now they've seen it. But they've been seeing that thing for years. You're not sneaking up on anybody. The stuff that you do with Trey as a runner is familiar to NFL defenses. So there's
you don't think Chandler Jones is what does a running quarterback look like? Oh yeah, we see one every fucking day in practice.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but just defending that in real speed and so I'm with you. I think it'd be easier for Trey, and that's where I think that's where it gets really interesting. And that's what you're talking about is what happens. Not that we should ever assume a win for these 49ers at this point, but I would say it's. I think it's an interesting spot.
Jimmy wins this game. You're 3-4. Kyle's going to go wash. Season's on the line these next 2 weeks against these 2 divisional teams, and I think he'll just roll with Jimmy, which is scary.
Yeah, I think he would roll with Jimmy to a point, but I do think we'd see some of what he initially maybe wanted to do, which is more of Trey Lance. If Jimmy starts, still more of Trey Lance. Because I go back to, I think he is desperate to win. And I don't think he'd put some. Again, there is no loyal. He's not loyal to Jimmy Garoppolo. He is not. This is not about loyalty to Jimmy. He's been trying to replace him, so he's not going to. He's not going to default to Jimmy. I think he's frustrated with Jimmy. Now, maybe he doesn't think Trey Lance is ready to do all the things that he can tell Jimmy to do, but Jimmy can't do all the things he's telling Jimmy to do.
No, it's a disaster.
Julio on YouTube says Cardinals D has the advantage over Trey in terms of a rematch. I think it's worse for Trey, in my opinion. I think Arizona's defense adjusts to Trey better than he would adjust to them. Kyle has yet to prove he's a better head coach than Cliff in 2021. Yeah, look, I think there is something to their defense seeing him, but I think their defense would be the same thing in the second meeting in terms of like the good players that he prepared for are good again. I think it's got to help a guy the second time you've seen a team when you're
Kyle went from is he better than McVay to Cliff's now better than Fast. The best part about football.
If Kyle had Kyler, he'd look better than Cliff. Okay.
The best part about football is things change so fast because you lose a couple games, it feels like everything's fallen. And in fairness, you lose 4 straight games in the NFL. I don't care if you're the New York Giants or Belichick or the Niners. Like that's a month of losing. 1 month of losing. And when you factor in there was a bye involved, it's actually probably even a little more. That's a long time of just being a loser. And that's what Kyle is right now, just a loser.
I think that a lot of, and we had this conversation a few weeks ago after Trey's debut against the Cardinals, right? Like there's 2 conversations. Just it's what is it right now and what could it be? And I think right now a lot of the conversations around Kyle are out of fear of it's going to, 2 and 3 is one thing, but then 2 and 4 and then what? And then you said 6 and 10, but that's only 16 games, John. 6 wins is 6 and 11.
That'd be bad.
Right? And that's worse. And where's the hope? And this team has had expectations. So, I think that's where it comes from with Kyle. There's still time to salvage it, but it's going to take some.
I think one main issue is you have 2 teams. Now the Cardinals easily could be 8-0, given that Devontae's not making the trip. The Rams play the Texans. Like you have 2 teams that are 8-0 and 7-1 in your own division. And really, Seattle's only 2 and 5 or whatever because Russell's finger. Like if Russell plays last night, they win, right? I mean, that's the previous. Like they're winning. They beat Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago. Like they would be fine. Now I don't think they would be as good as even I envision them being, but the Niners would clearly be the worst team in this division. Even a diehard Niner guy can agree with that. Like we saw Seattle with Russell, they beat them. Like it's just they're better.
Yeah, Seattle's in a different boat. Like I know Pete is beside himself, and they've lost. What are they 1 and 3 at home now this year? Something like that.
Yeah, it's not good.
They're under 500 at home. I saw Pete's press conference. And he was like, "I'm at a loss." Like Pete was flustered. But at the end of the day, they can go, "All right, this sucks." But Russell
the Niners
Wilson's
are 1
out
and 9
there.
in their last 10 home games.
Yeah, that's a crazy stat.
It's a disaster.
Right? Like, and their starting quarterback is playing. Russell is only out there when he's wearing his Bose headphones doing his pregame thing.
Yeah.
0 and 3.
Screaming at invisible ghosts. He is pretty into it. He's pretty into it, though. He's like,
do you think
he
has
huddle the line?
Crowd noise? Like, I would love to find out that Russell has crowd noise in those headphones.
Wouldn't put it past him.
Like, he got some recording of, like, some road playoff game and keep New Orleans, Bob.
I would not put it past him. Geno and Jameis are terrible.
That would impress me. Yeah, they're both bad. But, I think do you think if Trey, and we'll find out, if Trey's healthy enough to play this week, like if he suits up and he's the backup quarterback, Kyle mixes him into the offense?
Yeah. I don't know how much, but I think Kyle, I mean, let's face it, he's kind of desperate at this point in time to get something going. They can't score points. Like, he's got to find a way to score points.
I think that's part of what people want to see is desperation, right? Like, say what you want, and I'm not saying he should coach like the Lions, but Dan Campbell, I saw somebody tweet this, I don't remember who, but it's what I was thinking watching the game, is Dan Campbell coached that Rams game. I don't know how much of you saw of it.
Did that game open up with an onside kick?
I don't know if it opened with an onside kick or if they did the onside kick after they had scored. But they went onside kick, fake punt. So it might have opened with an onside kick because they scored twice.
The fake punt was sweet.
So but they coached that game like group of 5 team, power 5 team, nothing to lose. Now that it's hard because they are clearly worse than the Rams. Like the Niners, again, I think are better than the Bears. But I think people just want to.
But to me, it's not about the levels of which you're playing. It's about like, are you doing anything? Do you have any other pitches? And it feels like Kyle right now is running on fumes. It really does. It just feels like he's at a loss. Like Pete's at a loss because, listen, my defense fucking played great, but I had Geno Smith as my quarterback, so we lost. It sucked. Kyle's at a loss because it just feels like, what are you doing? Like Ayuk, Baldy keeps tweeting these things out. Ayuk's wide open. What's going on here, Kyle? What is going on?
But John, if Ayuk's open, then it's not Kyle's fault that he's not getting the football. It's the quarterback's fault. Means if Ayuk's open, it means he's on the field and he's open.
But then it gets back to the moment the moment Trey's ready to go, you got to get Trey in there. Like not a soul wants to watch Jimmy ever take a snap again if you don't have to.
I think the primary problem, I said this the other day, I'll say it again. The primary problem Kyle Shanahan has right now is Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, part of that's on him.
He chose it.
Yes, that's part of it. And also, we shouldn't be shocked that you'll hear this we talked to Jake Hayner about this in our interview with him. You shouldn't be shocked when you send the message to the quarterback that you want to replace him. You try to replace him several times during one off season. Then you draft his replacement, and then he doesn't play at his best. Like, yeah, I would love for every quarterback in that situation to just handle it like Alex Smith. But we always do this. Like, well, he could be Josh Allen. You've pointed that out. Well, sitting worked a year for Pat Mahomes. Yeah, sitting has not worked a bunch of times for a bunch of other players. You know what my guess is? My guess is if Mahomes played right away, he still would have turned into Mahomes. And if you had sat him for 3 more years, he still would have turned into Mahomes. And most guys, like Jimmy, just be like Alex Smith. I've said that. Well, most guys aren't Alex Smith. Just most guys aren't. And who's a better player, Alex Smith or Jimmy Garoppolo?
Alex Smith, way better.
So Alex Smith's a better player. He dealt with more adversity. I mean, healthier. So we shouldn't be shocked that Jimmy is not, say what you want about what his ceiling is, that he's not playing up to his fullest capabilities. If you think that, how could we be surprised? His team's trying to replace him 3 times. And I'm pro replacing him. But if you can say be a pro, it's a lot harder to do it than actually say, like, hey, okay, play your best football in this circumstance.
I don't think there's even a conversation anymore. The evidence is in Jimmy's average at best. Probably, below average at this point. Like, it's just the evidence.
I'm not debating that. That's not the debate. My point is, whatever his ceiling is, he's not. If you think he's not playing to it, we shouldn't be surprised that he's not.
I know personally, like, I'm just tired of even thinking about Jimmy. I just want Jimmy to, like, I think most people do, go away. And when I say, obviously this year he's not going to go anywhere, but just play the other guy. That's all anyone wants moving forward. The moment Trey can play, he's the starter. Now, you don't have to verbalize he's going to start just name him the starter, and then we'll just go from there. And that what scares me, because I fucking know the way coaches are. I think we're farther away from that than people realize, and it could get uglier for Kyle with his equity with just the casual 49er guy in Northern California. And it turns out there are millions of them. They're one of the biggest brands in America. And I would say his approval rating, you think Biden's is down. I would say Kyle's is fucking, oh my God. It feels like it's at an all-time low.
I disagree a little bit. I don't think he's going to override Jimmy. Now, the hard thing is it's hard to know because until Trey's healthy, I don't think he'll ever say Jimmy's only starting because Trey's not healthy. Right?
Yeah, I'm not expecting him to say things.
No. I know. But my point is, it's hard. Like, to me, there's a scenario where Trey Lance, whatever this knee issue is, sprain, is not healthy. And if that's the case, Kyle is not going to say, nor should he, well, the only reason Jimmy is starting is because Trey's not healthy.
Of course.
So that's what could complicate it. But my point is, he is not happy with Jimmy Garoppolo. There's not a chance in hell he's happy with him. I don't think he's going to hold on to Jimmy too long.
I hope. I agree with you. He's not happy. I agree he's not happy, but I still think in this weird, the coaches are fucking nuts. He still thinks Jimmy is way better, gives him a better chance to win Sunday what'd they call that thing? Some weird
act of God.
A bomb cyclone or whatever that thing was called on Sunday. It had a weird
monsoon.
Name. No. It was like it was called a bomb river or bomb cyclone.
Atmospheric. Wasn't it atmospheric something?
No. It had like a
river.
No, it had like a bomb river. It had a specific name that was.
I thought they called it an atmospheric river or something like that.
It was. I just think he said. Beside that, like, we could win with Jimmy. He believes that. I mean, we have the evidence. We saw. Like, I mean,
they can win with Jimmy. but they're not.
No. We understand that he does not. I think
no. What I'm saying is they
overrate.
can.
We
I agree they
overrate
can.
we overrate the way coaches are like pragmatic about things in season. They're just not, especially when things go wrong and they don't think straight. Atmosphere. I thought it was called like a.
Maybe there was another name for it.
Yeah. Bomb cyclone.
But see, I think if they, see, the scenario that you're talking about is they beat the Bears, they lose to the Cardinals, right? So then they're 3-5
It was
going
called
into
the bomb
the
cyclone.
bomb cyclone.
Yeah, that's what hit us.
Bomb
cyclone.
monsoon?
Bomb cyclone, atmospheric river.
Those are the same thing, or those different things?
I think they're different things. Yeah. Warned of a bomb cyclone.
That's a way cooler name than atmospheric river.
Way cooler.
So the scenario that you're afraid of, and I don't think you're. Yeah, I mean, I think it's what everyone's afraid of. You beat the Bears, you're 3-4. You play the Cardinals, you lose, you're 3-5. But then you're playing the Rams, and it's like on Monday Night Football, got to get back into this thing. Jimmy gives us a better chance to win today.
I'm telling you, guy, I'm just out on that Kyle mindset of like, gotta like just
no.
everyone.
I think everyone's out on that. I'm just saying that's the scenario. I'm just painting the picture of what you're talking about here. That's what that schedule looks like.
Well,
so then you lose that game, and you're 3-6, and you're going to play the Jags, and then Trey Lance plays. It's like, well, cool. Well, it's too late now, right? They're
2-4. Like it's like Kyle, you're done. Just do whatever you got to do to play this guy. But he would never think like that. Coaches don't. Coaches are not. I think we give coaches too much credit about like knowing what to do and the right thing to do, and when it comes to big picture stuff, they are not big picture people. They're just not. It's why so many coaches in basketball and football have made historically poor GMs because they are obsessed with tomorrow.
I think that's correct, but I think people are overrating Kyle's desire to play Jimmy Garoppolo.
But the problem, though, Guy, I would agree, but he doesn't. But his mindset is so short-term oriented, he can't kind of remove himself from Jimmy to Trey.
Yeah, but Jimmy's not winning games. That's the thing. It's like once Jimmy stops doing really stops doing what he's telling him to do, what he wants him to do.
I know in a short-term mindset, it's too late. You could argue it's already ruined him this year.
Would they have a better record if Trey Lance had started from week 1?
I mean, Trey could have been way better by the time they got to the Colts. I mean, they only have 2 wins.
Yeah, that's right. That's really what it's about. Is would he be ahead? Now, could he have lost a game to Philly?
Of course.
Could have.
Yeah, but could he have won one of the other games?
But this is the problem of like, well, are you a championship contender or are you rebuilding? Because when you're rebuilding, who cares that you're losing games, right? The Jags don't care that they're losing games. Trevor Lawrence is playing, right?
Yeah, they made a miscalculation of their team.
They absolutely did. And then they got guys hurt. But yeah, well, Raheem Mostert got hurt. Oh, shit. He's been hurt before.
I know.
Kittle got hurt. Damn it. But he's been hurt before. Ferret got hurt. Ugh. So where were the safety nets built into the guys that have been hurt before getting hurt again? You know? Irony is Jimmy got hurt, but just not for long. Wasn't hurt for long. That's the irony. Of all the guys that got hurt again, he got hurt again, but he was back in a week.
I know. Go away, Jimmy.
One of the great press conferences of all time, John.
Incredible.
I think people can hear this. Carson Palmer went on Dan Patrick's show on Monday and said, yeah, I think Mike Tomlin, like you find a guy who wants out of his situation and maybe he's tired of Ben Roethlisberger, trying to replace Ben Roethlisberger. So they asked Mike Tomlin if he's a candidate for the USC coaching job. And here's what he said.
I don't have time for that speculation. I mean, that's a joke to me. I got one of the best jobs in all of professional sport. Why would I have any interest in coaching college football? That'll be the last time that I address it. And not only today, but moving forward. Never say never, but never. Okay? Anybody else got any questions about any college jobs? There's not a booster with a big enough blank check. Thank you. Anybody asking Sean Payton about that? Anybody asking Andy Reid about stuff like that?
All right, better line. There's not a booster with a big enough blank check, or I never say never, but never.
The booster line is pretty awesome. The booster line. I mean, what did Axe say? What's the point of having FU money if you never say FU? Like, Tomlin is so rich. And I think one thing he's saying is, like, you just, like, I'm rich, so I don't give a shit about some boosters money. One, I'm an NFL guy. Now, again, I'm someone, I'd be lying if I said I didn't eat this fucking rumor up, and I have mentioned his name before. I want to see it. He would be my number one candidate. Please bring him out here for my own selfish prerogative of consuming Pac-12 football. Mike Tomlin would be my number one choice, without hesitation. So I can't claim to, like, get on my high horse and be like pounding the table. I loved it in the sense of, like, I hope he's lying, but it sure doesn't feel like he's lying. And
you're right. It's like, that's how you would deny it if you were going to deny it.
But it was pretty incredible. And in fairness, like, it wasn't, it was Carson Palmer saying this, and I could see him. It's like he has to answer it, or someone's going to ask him the question the moment that happens. And I was thinking, like, did Carson, he's a Bengal guy, but he hates the Bengals and Mike Brown. So
trying to sow some bad stuff for the Steelers.
Yeah, I don't think he's doing that. But there is no better feeling, I would say, in life, whatever the relative amount of money is, when someone wants you and you just go, get the fucking hang up on him, basically, is what he just did there. Don't even waste your time calling me.
I mean, it was incredible. It was one of the great denials. I don't know how the question was asked. I hope the person who asked it didn't say, Mike, there've been reports, because that's one thing that pissed me off. I've been watching some media coverage of it today. It's like, not pissed me off, but like, there were reports. Like, no, there weren't reports. Carson Palmer, SC guy, said it'd be cool if we could have Mike Tomlin. And then Dan Patrick.
No. He said a mystery candidate is Mike Tomlin. Those were the words that came out of Carson's mouth.
Yeah, but I thought watching it, like, he was not saying, like, Mike's interested. He was saying this is
No.
Yeah.
Didn't he say a mystery candidate?
Yeah, but then he just said Mike Tomlin. He said, there might be a guy there who has a great job. You could lure an NFL guy who's trying to replace Ben Roethlisberger, Mike Tomlin. He said Mike Tomlin.
Yeah.
So, but then Dan acted like he was breaking news, and then Carson acted like, oh, I wasn't supposed to say that. I think that's the part when Carson's like, was I not supposed to say that? And I'm sure they've got a list of guys they want to talk to, but I think what Mike said, because I've seen couple of people say, like, oh, this is a bad look for SC. First of all, everything Mike Tomlin, I think he's in an interesting spot because he's been there for 15 years. He's 49 years old. Is he going to coach another 15 years? Is he going to coach another 20 years? Is he going to coach them all in Pittsburgh? How could you leave Pittsburgh for another NFL job? Like, you're not leaving Pittsburgh to coach the Texans.
Well, it's what he said. I have one of the best jobs in all of sport.
So it's one of two things. Either he's going to just keep the same job for 30 years, which nobody does, or he'll leave it. And I don't think it makes any sense to leave it for another NFL job because he has one of the best NFL jobs, period. So I could see, like you made the point to me today, well, I mean, if he wants to change a place, blah, 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 blah. I think what that is, to me, the heart of what he said was at the end of what he said. Nobody's asking Sean Payton and nobody's asking Andy Reid. Now, I would say to Mike, yeah, if Carson Wentz had said Sean Payton's name, they would have asked Sean Payton. But I think that's the heart of what he said. It's not about SC. It's not about an SC rumor. I think he's been waiting for a chance to say, why the fuck don't I get the same respect that Andy Reid and Sean Payton get? I've won a championship. I've been here 15 years. I never lose. I never have losing seasons. And you guys don't talk about me the way you talk about Sean Payton and the way you talk about Andy Reid. Now, why is that? Because I don't call plays? What is it?
I did lose at home last year to the Browns in the playoffs.
Super Bowl came year 2, right? But I think it was his chance to say, here are the best coaches. Let me tell you the best coaches in the NFL. Bill Belichick, then it's Sean Payton, Andy Reid, and me, Mike Tomlin, and Pete Carroll. Those are the guys. And maybe he doesn't feel that way about Pete. I don't know. I think he's been dying to say that. And he said it. They gave him a window to say it. Because why would he be that pissed about? Like, I think that's what it's about.
I think he's pissed because anytime that you have, an incredible situation, he's a star head coach at easily the most stable organization, I would say, in all of sports. And I'd say one of the most stable organizations. I bet if we really did some like nitpicking of like Fortune 500 companies, I bet they're running through executives more often than like the Steelers are. How long have those two guys been there? And it's like, I have to answer this question you asked me. He's got a huge game this week coming off a bye. His team, is by no means dead, even though I think a lot of us wrote him off. And like, you guys think, part of it, you think I'm going to go to fucking college? Like that? You think I'm going to go to college? Me. So it might not even have anything to do with SC, but just the notion that I have to leave the Steelers to go to college? To go to college. Like, do you know what he wants to say? Even if I'm not going to last 20 years here, right? Just because I just looked up Chuck Noll. He was a head coach of the Steelers 69 to 91. So 22 years.
How many Super Bowls? 4, 5?
4-time Super Bowl champ. Now, granted, he didn't win once he won his last one in the 80s, or I mean in the 70s. He didn't win again in the 80s.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you say that, like, being a head coach for a long time in the 70s and 80s, it's just a little different now in the 2010s and now in the 2020s. What Mike Tomlin is doing is incredible. What Bill Belichick is doing is incredible, but you have to win at a high clip. But I think part of it is less about specifically SC, because it could have been Ohio State or LSU.
Yeah, I don't.
And more
I
like,
agree.
does anyone think that I wouldn't get it? However many fucking coaches get fired this offseason, guess who'd be their number one fucking candidate if the Rooneys, who I love, were to fire my ass? Me. 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 And you're right. I think it was more. He does get disrespected a little bit. I'm probably guilty of it too, because it's like, what does he do? And I love him. I mean, I would want to hang out with him. But he is right. He is not treated like those other two guys he's listed.
Yeah, absolutely, he's right. Now, again, those guys would get asked the question if Carson Palmer had said,
"You're right, though," but it wasn't about that. It was more that, like, give me my goddamn respect.
The other thing is, none of it's about him. It's also about Ben. Like, no one thinks, and no one would like Andy. Why would Andy? Huh? It's like, well, I don't know, Mike. Sorry, I thought Ben's kind of been a pain in your ass. If you're cool, then it's all.
Someone should have been like, "Hey, Mike, yeah, Andy ain't leaving Mahomes." But did you see last night Sean Payton with Jameis? Maybe he would bolt.
Yeah, maybe that was the time for Sean. So, I don't know, it's fantastic press conference by him.
And listen, I saw some people like, why do we always go through this? And we did it forever with Gruden, the Gruden rumors. But this specifically, I mean, a high-level guy said it to Dan Patrick. It was not just one of those internet rumors that Carson Palmer said it, or else it would not have been said. Besides
Carson, who's definitely talking to the athletics director and other boosters.
He claimed he's involved with the process. So there have been historically some, Condoleezza Rice with Irsay the other day, like those type rumors that have happened that are just, and listen, it's fun, the college football cycle. And I guess Condi was an NFL cycle with the Browns. But this one, in fairness to the whole like speculation, there was a tangible thing that happened. It was said.
The speculation is not unfair at all.
Then Mike Tomlin would leave the Steelers to go to USC? Or
no, I'm just saying, once Carson Palmer says it, then that's the story. Carson Palmer said USC would want you. Mike, would you be interested? Like, because
would Kyle Shanahan be interested?
Nah, I don't think so. But if Carson said his name, Kyle would get asked about it.
If he was interested, would you say USC should hire him if he wanted out?
If Kyle Shanahan got fired by the 49ers, should SC consider him? Yes.
Or just like said, they're going to let him out of his contract. He can go wherever he wants or do.
Yeah, that'd be a good hire. Yes.
You would take Kyle Shanahan over James Franklin?
Ooh. I mean, James never been to the national championship game.
No.
But he knows college football.
Yeah. Kyle want to recruit?
Jimmy Sexton. Yeah. It's interesting. That's a good one, John.
Kyle doesn't feel college. Mike does.
No, he doesn't.
Mike does. And
but he was a college receiver.
But forever, like Herm Edwards, a lot of people talked about Herm Edwards, like he would do it. It's why once he got the job, it was crazy because it came out of nowhere. But once you thought about it, you're like, well, he is going to be able to sit down in these homes with a parent and sell people. And he's done a good job recruiting, right? I mean, it made sense. Tomlin feels like the infinitely on steroids version, way better coach version of Herm. I like Herm, but like there's not a college or an NFL team that would take Herm over Tomlin because Tomlin was made to kind of do both. Kind of like Pete. They could just, that's like when you look at Kyle, like, no fucking Belichick, no way, right? There are certain coaches that even like Andy, like, he just wouldn't, he couldn't do the BS fluff 24/7. We're like, I think Tomlin could. McVay. If I told you McVay, you're like, yeah, he would crush it in college, right? If I just put McVay at Michigan or I put McVay at USC, you're like, yeah, he'd be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, part of it too, you had me thinking this the other day. You're like, Tomlin just wants to impact lives differently than he can in the NFL. You can easily concoct the scenario.
Well, that's why Herm made sense, because he was always talking about that. But at Tomlin's core, do you know what he likes doing? Winning football games on Sundays at the highest level.
Being the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers is pretty cool also, John.
Yeah. He makes a ton of money.
It's pretty cool.
But he did, like, the rant about the boosters is an incredible line. It's an incredible line.
It's a great line.
But it's like, Mike, no one's acting like you don't make a lot of money or they can buy you or whatever. They were just saying that the interest, maybe you're done. It wasn't about money. You're rich. Well, we know it. You're rich.
Also, there aren't a lot of people in his spot. Like Sean Payton is one. And we've seen it. Like being in one place 15, 20 years, it's just sometimes things change. But the question has to be asked, because if the question's not asked and then he gets the job, it's like, whoa, we missed this story because we were afraid to ask him.
Okay, let's take those three guys. Mike Tomlin, Sean Payton, Andy Reid. Do any of them coach at another place before their career ends? Sean Payton's 57, Andy, I think 61.
I'd say
Obviously,
Andy,
Mike's
no.
No chance.
Sean, it feels like no to me as well, because he's kind of they had the moment to leave, right? Where we thought there was going to be a breakup and they didn't.
And they gave him a ton of money and he's the man there.
Yeah, I don't see why he would.
But you would say he would be more like Andy's definite no. He would be a no, but it's not the craziest thing you've ever seen, right?
Right. I mean, you just bet on if the odds are a coach is going to stay somewhere forever or eventually leave, then you bet on eventually leave.
Yeah.
But again, part of it's like, what this isn't, the NFL's not college. So if an NFL coach doesn't want to go to college and they're in control of their situation, there's no reason you're not going to go because, this school is in a better conference and they can pay me more money, right? Like, who is Sean Payton going to coach? The Patriots? He has a falling out. Bill retires. McDaniels leaves. Robert Kraft tells him, I'll pay you $17 million a year to come coach the Patriots. Okay. But I mean, what's more likely is that he's got a great situation.
Well, the other thing, if Andy Reid's just going to retire whenever he's done with Mahomes, Sean Payton and definitely Mike Tomlin, both those two guys, if they ever became available, obviously every team with an opening would offer them. Look what happened to Rivera. Like immediately, football teams like, it's your job. Those guys are obviously highly thought than him. There would be teams with coaches that would think like, should we fire our guy to hire him? Right? Like the Seattle Seahawks. You'd be like, Pete 70, you got to go. We're just going to bring in Sean Payton to get with Russell, and they'll be buddies, right? There'd be teams like that would be willing to do it.
You're right. If he becomes available, if he were available, SC would not. NFL teams would be firing their coaches for him.
Yeah. The New York Giants would call immediately. Hell, the New York Jets, should we just fire everybody and go hire Sean Payton or Mike Tomlin? Because I'd be like, yeah, I'd think about it. I like Robert Saleh as much as the next guy, but bye-bye, Robert. Right?
If Mike Tomlin was available, Aaron Rodgers would call Mike and go, Mike, let's do a package deal. Where can we go together?
If you and I ran the Jets and we just hired Saleh, his entire crew, we also had Joe Douglas, and I said Mike Tomlin is available, could we justify firing everybody and just
Absolutely,
hiring Mike Tomlin?
you could.
Yeah. Without hesitation.
And if you were the Giants, I think the Jets and Giants would have a bidding war over Mike Tomlin.
Or Sean Payton, if they became available.
I mean,
hell, what if Andy Reid became available? Don't you think he'd get the same treatment? Like, what if Andy Reid was just available?
Yes. I just started to think would Mark Davis be able to win any of those battles? Because his job is attractive in terms of his quarterback, right? And full franchise.
He's proven that
power.
he will pay someone 10 years, $100 million.
That's true. I guess it depends on whether Gruden gets his money or not, which he's not, right? He didn't get fired, so.
Yeah, the last I saw, Florio wrote last week that it's unclear. There haven't been reports that he's suing him, that he was just cool with going. But he basically when does that ever happen? Wait, you owe me $60 million. I'm just good. I'll see you later.
I know, John. Before we go on, for the podcast, before we listen to our conversation with Jake Haener, Fresno State quarterback, let's tell the people about Puesto. If you ate Puesto at the Niner game, maybe on Sunday night, was probably the best part of the day. Puesto, John. Puesto. This is this is Mexican, artisanal kitchen and bar deliciousness. Great drinks, fantastic food.
Go get yourself a taco. I recommend the filet mignon. If you're going to go, there's one in Concord. There's one in Santa Clara. If next Niner game you're at, section 110 and 129, you can go get yourself a taco. Margaritas are fantastic. The bar is massive. Place is sweet. It really is. The homemade tacos, everything is fresh. I mean, look at the size of their restaurant in Concord and the picture of that. And so they're huge. I mean, it's just so much room.
It was a great place to hang. I mean, we enjoyed hanging there. We took our guy Devin from Tito's, and Eric Adler and Alex Adler took care of us at Puesto, and it was fantastic. They founded it in La Jolla back in 2012, a first-generation Mexican-American family. And like John said, they make the tortillas in-house, daily, from scratch. They are delicious. I actually really like the quesadilla taco, which when I first got it, I'm like, is this 2 tortillas? But no. It's a tortilla, and inside the tortilla, around the meat of the taco, is a layer of like really crispy cheese that looks like it's a tortilla shape. It is fantastic. That's the braised short rib taco. So the shrimp taco, very popular, like John said. The filet mignon taco, the Baja fish taco, the perfect guacamole I like because it's got the Parmigiano Reggiano in it, just chunks of it in it. And now they're brewing their own Mexican lagers. They've got over 500 tequilas and spirits. It's phenomenal. So 2 Northern California, kind of 2 Bay Area locations, a bunch in SoCal, and 2 sections at Levi's Stadium.
Yeah, can't recommend it enough. Tell your friends about it. Go try it. Everyone that's been sending us Instagram videos or pictures or tweets, everyone loves it because the moment you bite into that taco, you're like, damn, these are bomb. And they are.
Yeah, they are. And like I said, great place to hang. They got good outdoor seating, ton of space indoor, at least at the Concord location. So go check them out. Podcast is also brought to you by The Daily Tip, presented by BetMGM. If you're into sports betting, you know how quickly the lines can change. So do we, hourly. And when you've got a lot riding on those odds, it pays to stay ahead of the curve. So before you place your bets, listen to The Daily Tip, presented by BetMGM, for the best analysis and information.
Well, you're looking at 2 guys that knows what it takes to start a show. Chemistry, good takes, fun. So check out The Daily Tip, presented by BetMGM, with featured guests like bookmakers, Odyssey insiders, BetMGM experts. You always got a fresh take on the action.
Yeah. I mean, chemistry, fun, good information. That's what Michael Jenkins and Chelsea Messenger are about. They break down the big takeaways. It's fun to bet on the game. It's more fun when you've got the inside scoop.
So ready to bet with an edge? Tune into The Daily Tip, presented by BetMGM. Listen weekdays, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern, on the Odyssey, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
Okay, so for those of you watching the YouTube live, we're going to post our interview with Jake Haener coming up. For those listening on the podcast, since this is a live podcast, we'll edit part of this out, John. So let's do our setup for Jake Haener right here. And we'll say, Middlecoff, we are fired up for our guest.
Yes, we are. Future NFL quarterback, getting some Heisman buzz, and leader of a team that's about to be 6-2 when they go down to the San Diego State Aztecs. I guess it's in Los Angeles at the Home Depot Center, and kick their ass.
Yeah.
Carson, Jake Haener, baby.
Yeah, there's so much. He became a huge story at the beginning of the year. The Bulldogs, we always watch him, but it was clear very early this is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Wouldn't you agree?
100%.
All right, here we go. Our conversation with Jake Haener. All right, so that's for the audio. For those of you who are watching this, obviously it's not here. You'll have the ability to go click on that and watch that video.
You know what I stumbled upon yesterday was I was watching Ole Miss, like Lane Kiffin's press conference. I just wanted to see, like, does he have a different vibe? He's still a little different, like whispers in his press conference, but he's like in a good mood. But then I was on Ole Miss's YouTube page, so I also watched Matt Corral's. And he's a guy, I think, probably a little more physically gifted than Haener, but also in the same kind of, overarching kind of class of players in terms of smaller, good athlete, good arm, but it's not. He was not viewed as some like blue chip player. I just think a lot of those guys, obviously Baker was the number 1 overall pick, but when you look at later, Gardner Minshew is a good example. Corral would have been a guy 5-6 years ago that probably is going in the 4th or 5th round. I mean, I think Jake Hayner's getting drafted now, probably more likely 6th or 7th round or something. Who knows? I mean, you go to the Senior Bowl. I think a huge question mark with this class. I saw Mel Kiper put out his top 5 players today. Not one quarterback, and there shouldn't be a quarterback.
Who do you have? Kayvon,
Drake London,
Thibodeau, Drake London, Drake Jackson.
No, Notre Dame safety Hamilton. He had an Alabama offensive lineman. I mean, it was just 5 position players. Kayvon was number 1, and then just kind of like I don't think many people Mel doesn't necessarily care. Like I don't think people view Drake London as a top 5 pick. Like I think he's more like a top 20 pick.
Yeah. Where did Crabtree go? Like
11 or 12.
9. Yeah. Okay. 7,
8, 9. Yeah, somewhere like 9, 10.
I heard that as a comp from somebody. I don't know. It was interesting. I think Crabtree won the Blitnikoff Award. This guy, John, is getting targeted 20 times a game.
Crabtree won it twice. Crabtree's one of the greatest college players ever.
This guy is getting targeted like 20 times a game. Defenses know what's going to him. He's catching like 17 and 20 balls. I mean, it's crazy.
If Crabtree had his entire career, those 2 years that he had with Derek for 10 years, don't you think we'd view Mike Crabtree as a lot different? Like he was a really, really good pro. If he had just been like 75 and 1,000 and
yeah, and he was a really good pro. But yeah, you're right. If he'd done it maybe all in one place,
it felt like he'd only done like 3 or 4 good years instead of and he played 9, 10 years, right? Instead of when you draft a guy that high, you're hoping for, right? I mean, a great career. I'm trying to think of Devontae was a 2nd round pick, but you know what I mean. Keenan Allen. You want one of those guys' careers.
Yeah, he went 10th overall. He had the Achilles. And you'd say he really had like I don't know how long, like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He had like how many prime years did he have? Well, I mean, he caught 89 balls in like year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's pretty good. I mean, he was a 1,000-yard receiver in year 8. Yeah, yeah, he was a 1,000-yard receiver twice. Caught 80+ balls 3 times.
Yeah, underwhelming for where he was picked. Now, he got to a team that had a weird quarterback situation, right? Felt like he hit his stride when he got to the Raiders. Is that fair? Like when you're looking at his stats, like his 2 best years with the Raiders? No?
Well, I mean, he had a really good year with the Niners, and then got hurt. Yeah, I mean, he was coming off
his big year with the Niners.
It was his best year of his career. It was 85 catches, 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns.
What year was that?
2012.
So it was Kaepernick and Alex. It's like a combo of them both. That was Super Bowl year.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if he catches that ball.
So you're right. So it's like maybe the Achilles derailed his career for a little bit. He might have just had like a 6-year stretch of just really good. Right?
I think he would have because 13 he hurts the Achilles. 14 he comes back, right, is not 100%, catches 68 balls though. Has a pretty good year. Plays all 16 games. So if it's not for that Achilles, he ends up with, instead of 3 80+ catch years, 2 1,000-yard years in a 5-year span, he probably has 5 straight years of 80 to 90 catches. And of those 5 years, maybe 4 of them are 1,000-yard seasons.
So if you're drafting Drake London at, between 5 to 15 and you know you're getting that, you feel pretty good. Like I'm getting at worst like a 2A, right? Maybe a 1B, but you feel pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's probably what you're getting, but it's going to be just very reliable.
Super high character. I was reading like he's actually kind of old school. Like he's not like Instagramming and Snapchatting all the time. When I read this ESPN article, I'm like, I fucking like this guy.
Yeah, they like him.
I think
he played basketball his freshman year.
Kyle Hamilton, people love that guy. Super high character. I'm telling you, this year is not a year where there's like 7, Panay Sewell, Jamar Chase. Like Kayvon would have been in that type name in any of the year. But I think the rest of the crew, like I was texting with a buddy a couple weeks ago. Maybe it was last week because I was watching USC because Hamilton got hurt, right? He hurt his knee. I think he's out this week. It's not a terrible. It's just like a sprain, right? It's not like a tear in ACL. But I was like, where would you pick Hamilton? He's like, well, he's probably going to go in the top 10, but in my opinion, he's probably more like 15 to 20. Just he plays safety, but he's going to be one of the better prospects in this draft. So that tells you it's not – there ain't like 7 Bosas in this thing and Zeke Elliott's and Jalen Ramsey's and it's
And all the receivers, right? Like we've
You know,
seen in years past where there have been multiple first-round receivers.
I've heard where it's good because all the guys returned because of the COVID season. It's like it's a really good 2nd through like 4th round, just like solid guys, like a lot of
Yeah.
Deebo Samuel types,
Which, means there's all pros in the draft. You just got to find them.
Yeah, you're going to have the opportunity to draft him in the 2nd, 3rd round.
And I think for Haener, like he's had to keep proving himself. I mean, Lamar Jackson got drafted in the 1st round. Kyler Murray got drafted 1st overall. And those guys have continued to have to prove themselves, right? So wherever Haener gets drafted, he'll have to do it again, but he's done it before. I believe in the guy. Now, like he knew it. He said it though. Like I got to put on weight because you don't get quarterbacks under 200 pounds don't get drafted.
Well, what did he say when? Because him and Tua, he's like, I'm taller than Tua, but Tua's 20 pounds bigger.
Was 20? I mean, it might be more because did he say Tua's 220? Which is that true?
Well, when I stood by Tua at the Super Bowl, he is built like a little fucking running back. Like he is not slightly built.
One thing I watched some of the Elite 11. Tua's listed at 217. Yeah, so Jake's like 190. Right, so that's 30 pounds. One thing I watched some of the Elite 11 clips before we talked to Haener, and Tua was there, and I'd seen these clips before. I'd forgotten about him, but Dilfer is all over Tua for being like undisciplined, not as a guy, but just kind of loosey-goosey in terms of when they're going through drills. Again, it's not that he's acting out or anything like that, but he's just kind of maybe not as fundamentally sound in everything they want him to do, not as diligent with the fundamentals as they wanted. Maybe it made me wonder, is that part of what we're seeing now? A guy who didn't ever have to be that. Even in Alabama got away with it. You would have thought they cleaned some of that up at Alabama, but I just
one thing going against Haener. If Haener was a starting quarterback at Oklahoma, he would be a 100% lock to get drafted, probably mid-rounds.
I'd say by the 4th round.
Yeah, if you put Baker Mayfield at Fresno State, even under Tedford when they were really good, like he is not going number 1 overall, right? Speaks to Tua and Mac. Like Tua and Mac, you put Tua at Fresno State or Boise State or whatever, he's not going 5th in the draft. You do benefit. It's weird because like hype ultimately does not determine a GM's pick, but it does influence the owner and the narrative around the player and just where
you don't think it influences a GM's pick?
Well, I mean, it does just because like Tua's like the top quarterback, but if I had put Tua at San Diego State, he probably wouldn't be talked about like that. So it just
if Joe Burrow had his year at Louisville.
Yeah, well, look at Teddy. You look
or
at
UCF.
Not Teddy. Yeah,
if
I mean,
Burrow
Teddy
had
and
the
Lamar,
LSU year at UCF, is he the number 1 overall pick? Put it.
I mean,
Actually, let me get. You might.
Bortles went 3rd.
Yeah. I mean, if Burrow does what he did at UCF and Herbert's at LSU, who goes 1?
Yeah. You get so much more margin for error, and I think we just overlook some of your flaws at the bigger program. It's just human nature because
it feels safer.
Well, yeah. If you and I get on Twitter Saturday at 1:00, most people have probably just consumed if, let's say, Ohio State and Michigan had just played, and one of those 2 programs has a number 1 overall pick at quarterback, that guy's getting the majority of people's attention, right? Yet Haener, or even Carr's a great example, it's just harder to fight for real estate of the attention that then gets you. Like Kayvon Thibodeau, he is awesome. He does benefit from being at that program. Now, he was going to a sweet program no matter what, but let's just hypothetically say a Thibodeau, a Bosa, if I do put him at a non-Power 5 program, now he's probably going to dominate because Khalil did, but it's hard. Now you can just say, well, when does a Khalil ever end up there? Well, it never happens.
Khalil also got the opportunity to play against Ohio State. And Taylor Decker, right? Wasn't that the tackle?
Had 3 sacks, I think.
Played really well. So
and that's when Mayock pounded the table, and then he took Cleveland Farrell.
Well, I mean,
that was
not the same draft.
Different draft. But I do think a lot of people saw that. Well, Mayock knows his defenders.
Yeah, well, but it was at a time when Khalil Mack was not the obvious pick. If he'd played at Ohio State, everyone like he went really high. So it's not like he got overlooked. But
if I ever could talk to Mayock, I'd say that statement you made was so that would have been like someone in his stature pounding the table for Herbert over Tua. And no one was doing it, right?
Yeah.
Like a Mayock, a DJ, like, you got to do this. Because he was adamant, right?
He was.
It was like, I would not take Clowney. I would take this guy. I do not remember. I mean, even me and you probably loosely did it. Like, Herbert's bigger or stronger. But no one was like, you cannot take Tua Tagovailoa. And now it's like, everyone's out on him. Yep. Including the owner. You see the owners meeting today? I guess Stephen Ross walked by. They're like, do you have a comment on Tua and Deshaun Watson? He's like, no. And he just kept on moving.
Nor should he. If would he do Harbaugh again? No. Okay. Good pod, John. Thanks for hanging with us, everybody. We'll have plenty more to talk about when we go live again on Thursday for the podcast, as well as our lock of the week.
Someone was like, didn't we just select Trey third or Wentz second? Those guys are physically well, just because I was like bemoaning the non-big school guys. Now those guys were like physical blue chippers, you know.
It is crazy. We almost had 2 North Dakota State quarterbacks playing against each other on Sunday Night Football.
Well, when you text me that, I didn't even realize.
I know. They're like, Wentz, North Dakota State. Eastern Illinois, Garoppolo. I was like, yeah, doesn't quite have the same.
When you watch Wentz move, he does not. He looks like he played in the Big Ten or something.
How did he end up there? I mean, it still blows my mind.
I don't know.
All right. Thanks for hanging, everybody.